Welcome to Sports Management Podcast, where you will hear interesting sports management professionals share their stories, experiences, and passion for the sports management industry. I am your host, Marcus Philipsson. Welcome to episode 148 of Sports Management Podcast. If you have ever learned anything from this show, please show your gratitude by subscribing to the podcast in your podcast app. And if you feel extra generous, leave a 5-star review. This will help the show grow, and the bigger the show, the bigger the guests. Thank you. Now, today's guest is John Viola, one of the first modern football agents in the UK. John is a former insurance broker from Scotland who later transitioned into a football agent, which you will learn more about in this episode. He is still an agent to this day, but with 30 plus years of experience in the industry, he's now focusing on sharing his knowledge with the new generation. He has started JV Academy and is offering e-learning courses about the football agent industry. In this episode, we spoke about how John became an agent, the football potential in Africa, how a delivery guy ended up working for him, dealing with high-profile individuals, the importance of networking, why he had to pay £100,000 to become an agent, and much more. John Viola, welcome to the Sports Management Podcast.
Hey Marcus, it's a pleasure being here.
It is my pleasure having you on. So for those who might not know who you are one of the first modern football agents in the UK with quite the experience. So how did you first start out on this path?
Well, Marcus, my background was I was working in financial services, which is really just a posh word for selling life assurance. And I got to a level where I started dealing with high net worth individuals, and that happened to be footballers. And during the period of working with these footballers, one or two of them asked me initially, look, would you help me do my contract with a club? And that's where it started, really.
You left school early and you have worked on some different areas as well.
Well, I've done some interesting jobs. I started in the construction business when I was 16. As an electrician, I wasn't a very good electrician, and I knew that wasn't the route forward for me. Then, I worked in bars and restaurants, just like everybody has, finding their feet. And then I got into financial services as a young businessman. I've been involved with selling life insurance, basically, and that progressed to investment and different other areas.
Interesting. And maybe I'm, skipping some steps here, but you started Viola FC in 1994, your own company. Why did you decide to start your own company?
I just felt that myself, the image I wanted was I was portraying me rather than the name of a company. And I felt like I was ready to do that, and having it in my own name means I would put my own neck on the block, and I'm still doing that every day.
There are very interesting things I want to discuss, but let's talk about the agency first, because as I mentioned in the intro, you were one of the first agents. And when you became an agent, it was different than it is now. You had to pay a very hefty fee. So can you talk about how it was like to become an agent when you started?
When I started, you had to do three things. One, you had to pass a short test, not a test with your local football association. I remember it was a list of questions, which was quite basic, to be honest with you. But you also had to pass an interview with your local football association, which I had to go along to the Scottish FA and sit in front of one of the guys, a couple of the guys there at that time. But the most difficult thing was we had to find £100,000 to give it to FIFA at the time. Now, that was over 30 years ago, and I didn't have £100,000. I didn't have £5,000. But I knew at that time that this was something that was going to be different. And I went out and found that money. I worked to save some money. I sold a car. I always remember I loved this car, and I sold it. I sold a little flat that I had some equity in. I borrowed from my sister, who still to this day says she made me. I borrowed from a friend. I went to the bank. The bank gave me something as well till I had enough money to take the 100,000 to FIFA. Subsequently, they all get paid back handsomely, and everybody's happy. But I knew at that time that I had to find this money for this job because I seen a niche in the market, and here I am over 30 years later.
So what was it? Because it's obviously a lot of money. You say you didn't have £5,000, it was £100,000. So what was it in your belief that still you believed in this so much that you went out and got this money to pursue this career?
Well, I believed that people needed the advice of having somebody to represent them, because I'd already done a bit before that, before they introduced this bond by understanding in the background through dealing with players. I knew there was a need for them to have good people to go and look after them and give them good advice about signing with clubs or transfers and looking after them. And there wasn't an awful lot around at the time, as you could imagine. And I thought, this is for me. And I really liked it. Remember, I'd sort of done a small apprenticeship and understanding about it, because a couple of players had asked me to help them. I knew a bit about the background of it. I didn't just go straight and blind. And I knew, well, I thought this was going to be something that was going to be big, and I think we've got that right.
So comparing to now, what does it take today to become an agent versus when you did one over 30 years ago?
To be fair, Marcus, it's basically the same. It's the same job. You know, you have to be able to, first and foremost, it's not a 9 to 5 job, right? It's like 24/7. My phone's on throughout the night nearly. As you can imagine, we've got clients all over the world. So the first thing is take away the 9 to 5 image, otherwise you couldn't make it. You have to be able to get people who want to work with you, i.e. other players and clubs need to trust you. Trust is a big thing. If you can't get people to work with you and trust you, then you couldn't work in this industry. And of course, the passion, if you've got the passion for football, then for sure that goes a long way. So for me, it's about being able to get your mindset about it's not 9 to 5 and you're willing to put in the hours, because this ain't going to happen if you think, I'll switch off my phone at 5 o'clock. It won't work for you. So you have to be open. You have to be able to work hard. You have to also take a lot of rejection, because there's a lot of rejection in this job. And the rest of them are just obviously similarities to other jobs, putting in the time and the effort. But more importantly for me, it's about being able to trust each other, you and a player or a club, but mainly you and a player, and being able to work with each other.
How do you build this trust and build on these personal relationships?
By being yourself and doing the job right and being honest and transparent. Too many agents, I've seen too many new young agents, and I'm not perfect, but I'm just telling you what I hear, and see by teaching someone. But too many young agents maybe try to go in and over-promise too quick because they're trying to impress players. Just be yourself, be transparent, be honest, work hard with them, let them know that you're genuinely with them. And if you do that right, and you do it professionally and the best of your ability, then everything should be okay, and they'll introduce you to their friends, hopefully.
You have worked with 6 World Cup winners and several high-profile individuals. So how is it like to deal with high-profile individuals?
From the beginning, I'm brutally honest with people. I tell them I'll put in the time and the effort and the work that it will take to get them from where they are to where they want to be. Remember, I can only take you as a player to the next level if you do the job on the pitch. And my promise is, if you do it on the pitch to the best of my ability, I'll take you to the next level.
In order to be an agent and to provide the top-level service to your athletes, it's important to have a large network, not only of players, but also in other areas around the sport. How have you built your network?
Because I've got a thing every day, even today, every day, that I put aside 15, 20 minutes, sometimes more, in looking for new people. I teach some people that if you really want to build your network, you need to work on it. You can't just think everybody's going to come to you. So it's a matter of habit, and I normally do it as early as I can in the morning. I write down who I'd like to contact, why I would want to like to contact them, and then have a target to try and get to them. I normally do this through social media. LinkedIn's quite a big area that I use to find new people. And make contact with them. Because for me, you can never have enough people in your black book. And I continuously look to find new people all around the world in the football business. And even some people think you've got it all, but you can never have enough connections. So really, it's a habit that I've built that everybody should build up as part of their daily routine. When you're sitting with your first coffee, focus, put 15, 20 minutes aside, get on that whatever that platform is that you're chasing them, and introduce yourself in. And if you do that on a regular basis and as a habit, you soon find out you're picking up quite a lot of new, good, and then it's just an important part. It needs to be good quality connections.
Yeah, that's so great, because I think specifically for the young people who listen, that they are early in their career, to create this habit that you just mentioned, to reach out and build their network early.
If you understand about the value that's in your network early doors, as soon as you start this business and you understand about how that's going to carry you through the difficult periods, building that network should be something to the forefront of your mind, and focus on that as much as you can on a daily basis.
Another aspect of the work, as you mentioned earlier, is handling rejection, dealing with that and not feel disheartened when something doesn't go your way. Was that something that was tough in the beginning and that you have learned over the years to deal with?
Definitely. You know, we all take things to heart when people don't want to speak to you. That's life. But I then got the mindset that really, if somebody doesn't want to work with me or talk with me or deal with me, then I can't do anything about it. You've got to leave it and move on. And of course, that's something you've got to build. You've got to build that thick skin. Again, early enough, if you can understand that rejections, that's not a negative thing, it's a positive thing, because you're only getting closer to the next person that says yes. So for me, when somebody said to me, no, I don't want to speak to you, I don't want to do a deal or whatever, that's fine. I'm getting closer to the one saying yes.
I love that mindset. Another part is negotiations. How have you practiced that? Because that's something you were working before with the insurance, so maybe you picked up some skills from there. But if there is someone young listening who wants to be a good agent and good at negotiating, how should they practice?
First things first, Marcus, I would teach them that they've got to go into some type of course or something that they get even if it's a basic knowledge course about negotiation, because that can make a massive difference for your client. Because if you can't negotiate for your client and you don't get him the correct contract, then he'll be sitting in the dressing room telling his mates what he's got, and if you've not got him the same level as the guy sitting next to him, then you could be in trouble. He won't be very positive the next time he speaks to you, for sure. So my recommendation is that, go on some type of, even a basic course about negotiation. Understand really what it takes to try and get through a deal. And then, of course, you can't be experienced, because when you come away from a negotiation and you realise what you've done well and also what you've not done well, then you've got to correct that and move on to the next one.
And you mentioned taking a course there. Something that I admire with you is that you're still working, of course, but you have had a long career and gained a lot of knowledge. And now you want to give back to the young people, and you have started your own academy and online learning courses. So can you talk a little bit about this new project that you have started?
Interestingly, about 7 years ago, a friend of mine asked me to mentor his friend to become an agent. And look, Marcus, I've never taught anybody like you mentored or done anything like that. In fact, I'd started laughing and saying, look, I'm too busy. I don't have time to mentor myself, never mind someone else. I'm flying all over the world. We've done business in 25 different countries, the last time I looked. And I thought, how am I going to mentor someone? But he pushed me because it was his friend. And the background but why we started the JV Academy, John Viola Academy, was quite simple. I started working with this guy, and listen, his enthusiasm was in abundance. He was working as a mortgage broker, but a similar background to what I had, but hated it, wanted to become a football agent. And so he was a perfect student because he was open to everything. But more importantly, the enthusiasm that he had was passing through to me in Zooms. And Zooms, I was coming off of Zoom like, wow. And I really liked teaching him. And I seen him making small progress. And then one night he phoned me and said, I think I want to quit. I can't really do this alongside my job. I'm traveling to games and I'm not making any money. But I knew he had it. And I says, no, stick in there. You'll do, please stay, you'll make it. Anyhow, he signed a small player at a small club. I'll never forget it. He called me, Marcus, and actually you'd have thought he won the lottery. He said, John, I've signed a player. Amazing. And the satisfaction I got was fantastic. So one day, believe it or not, him and I were sitting in a boardroom with a Premier League club. And next thing I know, we're outside the boardroom, celebrating, hugging each other. And that was him starting on the road to become a football agent. And he earned, I think it was about twice the salary, twice what his salary was in that one deal. And within a couple of weeks, he quit his job. He was off and running. And that guy now has Premier League players. He's took a player to Manchester United. He's done business all over the world. And I'm proud to say that that was the first guy actually that I started mentoring. And that's where I sat down and thought, I love this. I love teaching people. I love passing on my knowledge to them. So I always wondered, what am I going to do with all this knowledge in here? And now that opened up for us to start courses in understanding about how to be mentored, courses in events, and we have a range of courses to take people from where they are to where they want to be in being in the football agents business.
That's so great. So where can the listeners, if they want to check it out, how can they find it?
Listeners can go to jvacademy.net.
jvacademy.net. I will put it in the show notes as well.
Good.
You have also created an MBA master's degree program or helped out, right? So it's a lot of focus on education.
We had a professor who came to us and says, well, but I like your course. He'd done a course, a professor called Professor Vincent English, and it was mainly his concept to come to us and said, I would like to put this into a master's degree and teach people as part of the specialist subject. And we were involved with assisting him getting that, and which was a great experience to say the least.
I understand that. Another great story is that, as you said, you're helping out. Someone reaches out, they have a question, you're always open with answers. And, one day there was a delivery guy who he recognized you when he delivered something to your house. Do you want to tell this story?
Well, that's a great story, Marcus. I was sitting, just like when I'm sitting here just now at home today, and my door went, and it was a delivery guy, and it was from, I can't remember, it might have been McDonald's or I think it was McDonald's actually, and I opened the door and I paid, and he went, excuse me, and he says, I know who you are, John, Viola, football agent. He actually, I think he gave me a wee bit of ego by saying, you're the famous football agent. And I laughed and seen the name. And I think he was just stroking my ego. But anyhow, a lovely guy. He was from Georgia, and his English was okay, but it wasn't perfect English. And he was telling me that he came to the UK, Scotland. He came to Scotland to do a coaching course, just to do a course. Loved the place so much that he stayed, and he'd been in the country for a few years. This was 4 years ago when he tapped my door, and he said, I know a lot about football because I've done coaching. He said, I'm a delivery, McDonald's, I deliver other things for Amazon, I do coaching. I said, wow, Admiral, we had about 3 or 4 jobs. Anyhow, he said, I want to come on your mentoring program. I'd like to do your course thing. We got together, he done our course, and this guy was doing all these other things while he was learning. Because we're telling people this isn't a job that happens quickly. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme becoming an agent. And he done both things till he transitioned to becoming a football agent. Took him a couple of years. And where is he now? He's actually working for our company. He's done a lot of business over the last couple of years. And we're proud of him. And also in sitting the FIFA license exam, his first language is Georgian, the obviously English is second. A difficult exam, he passed that with flying colours. So when people say, who is this for? Well, this is somebody that had the hard ethics. He had 5 children, he's got 5 children. Can you imagine it? Second language English. But he made it happen because of the effort and the passion for football that they had. What a great story.
Yeah, what a story. And it shows what we talked about before, what it takes to be an agent. You have the passion, you have the hard work, and you want to learn.
Yes, definitely.
Love that. As an agent, obviously, you mentioned it's not a 9 to 5. You're traveling quite a lot. You've been to over 80 countries, I think I read somewhere. So, any favorite places you have been and something special you have learned over these years of traveling?
Oh, been to lots of special places. 84 countries, it was the last count, and I'm trying to find new ones where I can do football and new places. You're always looking. But some countries that mean a lot to me. In Mexico, I like what I've done some business there. In the past, I've been recently in Ghana. I really like Ghana because of their passion for football is unbelievable. Plus, they're very humble, they're hardworking. I like the place as well, the people are amazing. So Ghana has always stuck out for me as being a great place. Now, of course, there's the normal ones like Germany, Spain, Sweden, okay, and England, and of course, where I am in Scotland. But, if you're talking about different places, that meant something to me. Ghana sticks out as something that is different, where it's a land of opportunity because there's still a lot of people to be found there. They just don't get the pathway to come from these African countries to come to Europe. There's a blockage because of lots of different reasons. Not enough agents there. There's not enough connections. But the talent and the attitude, the raw talent there is second to none. So I like that. I like that as a country. And recently, with our lad that chap Tordo from McDonald's, come back to him. He's from Georgia, and we've done lots of business in Georgia, and I found that place to be excellent as well.
So, of course, he helped you maybe with some connections in Georgia after, so it was also good for exploring some more markets.
Marcus, think about this for him, right? It's another part of him, which is a great story. He'd been away from his town for 12 years, a place called Kutaisi, which is quite a big town in a big city in, well, not big city, but he well known enough. He'd left there 12 years ago, quite a big place. But not big enough that everybody knew him, but he'd been away for 12 years. He turns up back for the first time in 12 years with a coat for the team that he supported. Could you imagine that? He's back as a football agent. He's turned up with a coat for the team that he supported. It's actually a UK coach. And the coach does so well and takes the club into Europe because they weren't doing so well. And what a situation. And that's where we learned a lot about Georgia in the last few years, is that the connections he made there and how he made them because of him being positive about coming into the business, but taking a coach back to his hometown and the team he supported, unbelievable.
Unbelievable indeed. So we mentioned Africa, the raw talent, and I think you have a researcher now who looks into emerging markets for you to explore. So is Africa one of the hottest emerging markets that you see it now in football?
I mean, I tell you where else it is alongside the Middle East. That's going to come through as well. Watch that grow. That's obvious for Saudi Arabia, and which we're involved in quite a bit. But Africa's always had the talent, and it's always been emerging. It's just people are taking a lot more interest in the last few years. Look at all the fantastic African players all around the world. There will always be fantastic talent there. It's getting them out of it, which is the difficult pathway that a lot of people don't understand how to do. Fortunately, we've done that on occasions, but it isn't easy. But when it's difficult, that's when you find the really good people for sure.
Over these years, you have mentioned some great stories already, but what is some very memorable time that you can remember now looking back at your career?
There's been a lot. There's been many, but There's one that's actually a funny one that sticks with me, and it was quite memorable about quite a big player. We took a player from Real Madrid to Middlesbrough, myself and a colleague of mine called Milan Calasan, and the player was called Christian Carambou. And Christian was playing for Real Madrid. He was a World Cup winner with France. Fantastic guy. He's still in the business. He works currently for Olympiacos. A lovely guy. And the funny story about him is that he was signing for Middlesbrough, who were in the Premier League in England. And he was a complete athlete, no alcohol, just concentrating on being a top footballer. And he really wanted to try the English Premier League. So we set up this meeting to go and have a chat with the Middlesbrough Football Club. And I always remember picking them up at the airport. And instead of going directly to the training ground, I arranged to meet these guys in a local restaurant bar type thing in a lovely village to take us away from the formalities of the football club. And it's lunchtime, we're going to get a bit of lunch, and we are sitting there and we're ordering, and as you do on occasions, the guys, one of the guys ordered a pint of Guinness. Well, sorry, I don't know if you pint of Guinness, it's an alcoholic drinking. And of course it was myself, and the chief executive ordered a pint, the manager ordered a pint, I ordered a pint, and Christian ordered a pint. So anyhow, and I'm looking, wow, that's something unusual. A footballer ordering a beer in front of maybe his new employers, which was very unusual. And I think it might have only been half pints. But anyhow, it was a half pint or a pint. So we had that, and we had the lunch, and we go away, and we have the chat and everything. And eventually he signs a contract, and then later on, and I pulled him aside, I said, Christian, just for future reference, you shouldn't, be ordering an alcoholic drink in front of, maybe your future peers. And he looked at me and says, I didn't know that was alcoholic. I thought that was some kind of like new multivitamin drink or something. He didn't know. I thought it tasted funny. But that was it, because it was so funny that later years we've spoken about it, and I've met him lots of times since, obviously, in the business. And he always reminded me, remember when we went to that meeting and I ordered this drink, which I thought was some type of strong sports drink or whatever, or a health kick, and it was funny. So, but the interesting story about him was that he came from one of the biggest clubs in the world, Real Madrid, to Middlesbrough, and people were like, wow, why has he done that? But his motivation was he wanted to play in the English Premier League. He'd played at the highest level, won the European Cup with Real Madrid, won the World Cup, and that's what was in his head. And that story always sticks with me. And I've got hundreds of them.
I understand that. So, but that's a good one. There's a lot of young people listening to this that they are early in their career, and except for taking your online learning course, what is some advice that you would give a young person who starts out in the football industry?
One of the biggest pieces of advice is to be patient. Because this, again, as I keep mentioning, our strapline, when people say, I want to be an agent, say, look, this isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. This is something you have to take step by step by step to get to a level of success. Because if you think it's going to happen overnight, again, like the 9 to 5, you shouldn't be coming into this business. It's like anything else. It will take time. But patience, you need to have a lot of patience. And also, when you're going to come into this industry, do as much research as you can. I know that's common sense, right? But you may get caught up with the big bright lights of thinking, oh, I'm dealing at a football club, or I'm dealing with this player. Before you enter, do as much research as you can of who you're going to work with, why you want to work with them, or even that's if you get the opportunity to work with somebody. But if you're only going down the line the same way that we do it by teaching people, make sure you do the right research to find out if that's the right teaching method that you're going through. And I say that because there are other people doing similar circumstances with us. But of course, we take pride in being the best in the world.
Of course. So be patient and do your research. I love that. And also, I think it's good what you mentioned there with that there's not a 9 to 5 job and not a quick buck to be earned. Agents as a profession sometimes, I think, gets a little bad rap. That's how I felt about it.
Sure.
Is that something you would agree with?
Definitely. We're the guys that everybody hates in the industry. And I get that. But like any business, there's good and bad in every industry. But because we're a public industry and a public job, especially something that everybody's passionate about, if something goes wrong at the club, then they want to hit on the guys that are taking commission for bringing a player or whatever. It's his fault or our fault. And I get that. Because I'm a supporter as well, remember. I know that I sit in the stands and I want to make sure that my club is getting the right advice from the right people and isn't being ripped off. So I totally understand that. But like in any business, there's good podcasters and there's bad podcasters. It's like any business, only our bad ones are highlighted more.
That's for sure. I think, as you said, to be open and honest, as you said before, and straightforward, not beat around the bush, and also to keep your, being ethical and then work hard, and then the perception might change.
Well,